Okay, we'll call to order the November 15th, 2022 Connecticut State Board of Landscape Architects meeting into session at 9:30 a.m. Okay, so jumping into minutes, there is two things that we need to do. One is review of the May 17th meeting minutes that we did not have a chance to approve because we did not have a quorum for our August 16th meeting. Thanks, Phil, for attending that meeting, and apologies to Phil for not having a quorum at that meeting.
I think it was Dom.
Was it Dom? Because I thought the minutes said, oh, maybe Dom, were you at the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, give credit where credit's due.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give that credit to
That's
Phil.
fine.
But
But Yeah.
we do have to formally approve our May 17th, which is way back in the spring of this year, those meeting minutes.
Yeah.
So if everybody had a chance to review them, if there's any comments, if everybody has them, we can take a couple minutes, or somebody can make a motion to approve them or edit them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Ann. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Phil, was that an aye?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and then just a quick discussion topic for the minutes that were put together is a memorial for the August 16th meeting. They're really just an informational. We can't approve them, but thank you for putting them together, so at least we have them, but we do not have to act on them. I believe that is correct. Shannon, Bob?
Correct, right.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, moving into investigations. I
I've got a
believe.
Could we look at item 2 first?
What's item 2?
What's item
Comments
2?
and concerns?
I'm not seeing that.
I gotta find my agenda. Hold on a second.
November 15th.
The newest one, right? Yeah. The one that Bob sent in for November 15th that just came, was that today?
Let me see.
Item 2, comments or concerns of any person present today.
I'm thinking about just.
I must have the old one open. I apologize.
Do I have the right one open?
No, it's the latest one that I got, I believe came from Shannon this morning at 9:21 a.m. or around there.
So I'm just gonna address them.
Yes, and that update,
Oh, I don't
believe-
have the updated one.
I sent that out to everyone this morning to be sure that everyone had it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I think you're right. I had a more formal one that was open, but it looks like I skipped over. So the old one went to DCP investigations. We will go to item number 2, comments and concerns of any person present today.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that today is my last meeting, so I wanted to make sure that you all understood that, and that was part of the that got put onto the agenda or the minutes.
Yes, and we we have been working behind the scenes, Ms. Penniman, to formally acknowledge your volunteer efforts. But I have not yet received what was requested in order to present anything to you. So
Oh, I'm not looking for anything. I just
no,
wanted
but
make
in
that
all
clear.
seriousness, I think it is warranted, and looks like we'll have to do something a little bit later for you. But again, yep, we are aware. I believe Phil and Dominic are both aware, and as soon as we do have something more formal, we'll get the group back together. But again, thank you for sticking on this year too. I know we had to convince you a little bit to stay on a little bit longer, so I appreciate that. All right, item 3. Now we can move to investigation division, and I believe we have Ms. Hamel here to give us an update.
Yes, good morning to the Landscape Architect Board. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for recognizing me. I'm Janita Hamel. I am Supervising Special Investigator for the Investigations Division at Consumer Protection for Occupational Professional Enforcement. We are the people that would investigate complaints when they come in. We don't normally get a large number of complaints about landscape architects. In this matter, there was a complaint that came in from a third-party person, and it was against Ms. Matson. The investigator, Keith Lombardi, wrote a report, and it went to legal. And after having a compliance meeting, the attorney from the legal department decided that they could close the file with no further action because the legal department determined that the young lady was not engaging or advertising as a landscape architect, misusing the term and engaging in any work unlicensed or unregistered. So.
Okay, one quick question, then I'll just, for the board's purposes, I'll open it up for board questions because we don't have a lot of these. The person who filed the complaint, do they get notified of the process and that it's closed?
What we normally do is, if in investigations, when we get the complaint, I review it, I assign it to one of the investigators or inspectors, depending on if it's professional board or an occupational board. And we send a letter. If we know who the complainant is, they get a letter that we have their file. They are notified who the investigator, the inspector is, and that will be their contact person. Then then we send a letter with a copy of the complaint to the party that was complained about, for them to provide us with a written response, provide us with licensing information and everything else. And then we expect them to respond back to us. In the event, when we get the responses back, sometimes they don't respond, but in this case, when they respond, if we look at it and we say, here's the allegations that they advertised either unlicensed at a certain amount of time. Oh, gee, I didn't renew my license for a couple of years. You know, or then we would write a report. In this case, that's what the investigator did. It went to the legal department. And because the person is licensed, they get an opportunity to have a compliance meeting with the legal department. If they were not licensed, there would not be a compliance meeting, and the legal department would then contact the board and indicate that the legal department is going to be presenting a hearing in front of you on an unlicensed person where we found violations, or it might be a licensed person with massive code violations on the occupational side. But in this case, at the compliance meeting, the young lady showed proof of compliance to the attorney, and the attorney chose to close the file and say no further action was warranted. Once we send a file to legal, we are not part of the process unless the legal department contacts myself or my inspector or my investigator that there's going to be a formal hearing and they're going to have to provide testimony, and the person complained about will have to be at that board hearing as well. And then they could either come in with an attorney or not. And the legal department for DCP would represent the file and the inspector or the investigator with the testimony to you, showing what we did, what evidence we have, and what proves the violation. the party complained about, whether they're there with an attorney or not, will then have their opportunity to refute the violations alleged. And then you would make the decision as the board, whether you felt that A, DCP proved the allegations of violation, or B, we didn't, and you believe the party that was complained about more than you believe DCP's investigator. And then you would make a final decision in order and notify the department of what you chose to do at that point. And the legal department would actually kind of guide you a little bit with what they would recommend would be an appropriate circumstance for the violation. Like on my occupational side, I've had heating and cooling contractors or people who were not licensed as a heating and cooling contractor, only were a journey person, did not have the contractor license, worked beyond the scope, caused CO poisoning in a house. By the grace of God, the people didn't die. But the heating and cooling board would make a decision at that point, and the legal department, based on the legal department's recommendation, suspend the license, revoke the license, fine the person. And on our side, it starts, first offense is $1,000, second offense is $1,500, and every third and subsequent offense is at $3,000. So he could have his license suspended for six months, a year, could have it revoked outright, and could get fined starting at $1,000 going up. So the board would make that decision.
That is probably the most thorough explanation I've ever received on how the process would work if we got to that point. So thank you very much. I hope we never have to get there, but at least now I think we have a better understanding of how it actually works. Still one question or two questions. In that description, I apologize if I missed it, but does the person who filed the complaint get notified in this situation because it was determined
Legal
that?
did it. You're not the first board or board chairman to ask that question. And if myself and my inspectors found that there was no violation, we would notify the person that it's a civil matter, that there's no license violation, it's a money issue, go to court. When it's up at legal, we have asked that the legal department notify the party that was complained, that made the complaint about what the legal department did. Because once we send it to legal and it resides up there, I cannot answer that question with any certainty what legal does at that point. Legal has been requested to notify the complainant of what they have done at legal. But I'm not being with the legal department and I can't speak for the attorneys.
Okay, so
So I'm not-
they
sure.
should be,
should
but
be.
whether or not they do, we don't know.
Right, I can't, but I can tell you from my perspective in investigations as the supervisor for the occupational and professional enforcement group, when my inspector and my special investigator close a file, we notify the consumer with one of our closure letters that are pre-formatted in the computer complaint center system. We also usually, and especially because of COVID, make sure that that letter goes out to the complainant via email as well. So we have a letter that's attached, we send it to them by email, we tell them why we closed their complaint.
Okay, and I hate to keep belaboring this, but was I correct in hearing that the decision to close the case was made because Jessica Matson is a licensed professional?
And it would appear, and I might have spoken out of turn, I would have to be able to go back into that file and look exactly at what was provided
Okay.
to the attorney. it says the reason it was closed is that Ms. Mattson was not performing any landscape architecture work without a license.
Okay. All right.
She's
So
on
that
the
is the
list.
official
Yeah.
term that they put in the closure. The attorney that closed it isn't here. And I might have looked at the fact that there was a file number, a license number shown, but I didn't go into the file this morning. I had two prior meetings before this, so I apologize.
Okay, no, that's fine. Again, it was a good explanation, and it's, I guess, technically out of our hands. I mean, I think we can quickly find out if Mattson is licensed in Connecticut, but
Mhm.
I think Dom probably already did.
Yeah, she's licensed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that update. And I don't think the board has to make any actions on it.
Any other questions or?
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Ms. Hamel?
I was wondering if the complainant is identified to the person being complained about.
Yes, yes. If the name is known on the letter that goes to the party that got the complaint, the name of the person or the group or the company or whomever complained about them is on the letter that goes with the copy of the complaint. If it's anonymous, it'll say anonymous.
Casey.
But they do know who it is.
Thank you.
And if somebody wished to be anonymous and file a complaint about somebody, the key that I always tell the other boards, because they have a tendency to file a complaint online, say I'm anonymous, but they're in the body of their complaint, say, call me at this phone number and I have more information. And I'm like, you just let them know who you are by putting either your name, your email address, or your phone number, so you're not anonymous anymore. So I end up having to send an email if that is in the body of the complaint saying, you're not anonymous anymore. They get a copy of this. If that's not what you meant, you have to withdraw this one, go back online, and click in the anonymous box to be anonymous, but you can't put any information about yourself in the body of the complaint because they will get that. And if that wasn't your intent, you need to not put that there. The other thing we try to tell people is, once you're anonymous, you can't call me, the complaint center, my staff, our secretary, our inspection aide, screaming and yelling that you want to know about the file, because all my investigators or inspectors know is an anonymous, unnamed, unknown person filed that complaint. And we don't have that information. And if somebody calls around the agency screaming and yelling, they want an update on their complaint, and we explain to them, and I as the supervisor would end up having to handle it, you are anonymous, you don't exist. If you're looking for an update on a complaint, then we tell the anonymous person, you now must give us a notarized letter with your name, address, and information, email and telephone number on it, and indicate that for file number blah, 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 that you are the anonymous person who filed that complaint. You now wish to be known, and you would like updates on everything that happens on that file from that point on.
Okay, understood. Thank you again. So any other questions for Ms. Hamel? Because we do not have to keep her. Looks like we're good. Thank you again.
You're quite welcome, and everybody have a good Thanksgiving holiday, and good luck with your retirement from the board.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks, Jada.
You're welcome, Bob.
All right, moving on. Old business 4A, our discussion about Yukon. Is there any status? I know we sort of we kind of got a date in the fall and we kind of didn't act on it. Are we going to move on this at some point? I think Dom, I think it was last in your hands. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't even remember. It's been so long. I just apologize. I probably should know, but I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Phil, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. You're muted. You're good.
That's that good. So I'm a broken record. This is not a hard thing to do.
No.
If we want to do it, let's do it. If we don't want to do it, let's take it off the agenda. We've had lots of opportunities. UConn is ready and willing and anxious to have us come up. You know, I've heard from the board that you want to do it.
Yep.
So I kind of don't get it. Sorry.
Okay, well, and it's, the frustration is completely understood. We have the presentation. I have the cluttered presentation. I think I sent it out to the group. If I didn't, I can. There's no reason why we can't do it, Phil. So I know we had email communication with 1 or 2 people, I think, that you put us in touch with up there. We can go that way. I have no problem saying that I'll reach out as the board chair and say, let's go up and talk. Whoever wants to come up with me, that's great.
I think that's the way to go.
Okay. Is it still the same contact? Probably.
I think Sue Sun. You can dig it out again.
Okay. All right, so board minutes will reflect that the chair will reach out and try and set up a time to go up and present, and whatever board members want to come, more than happy to have that happen.
Beautiful.
Okay. Done. Let's see, 4B, continuation discussion regarding the restriction of landscape architecture practice by local and state agencies. And again, this is another one of the little broken record. We did have some progress. We had discussions. Legal did get involved. It just seems like it gets stuck in that world of discussions back and forth. The only thing we've ever had is a letter that I think was written by the past chair, Vince McDermott, that's gotten sent back out to the few municipalities who just seem to not want to follow state regulation or state law. And we get no traction on it because they keep continuing to do what they want to do. And I think, Phil, you even ran into it with our own Department of Transportation, which is what actually got us to the next step. But
Yep.
Nothing seems to come of it every time we bring it to that next step. So again, this is an item that's on there for old business. Does anybody have any new ideas on what to do? And Shannon, this is an ongoing conversation that we've had on this board that may be new to you, but we have had issues with several municipalities and the Department of Transportation not accepting our stamp or certification on site plan elements that fall within our purview that we feel pretty strongly that we're allowed to stamp, and they just don't accept it. So we have had, if you go back through the meeting minutes, we have brought in, it sort of moved up the ladder into legal. We've had discussions, but it just never seems to get to that next step that anybody says, hey, you need to accept the landscape architectural stamp.
Okay, so as far as this meeting is going, how are we documenting the status of this item?
It's a good question.
I don't understand the question.
As far as the minutes go, it sounds like there hasn't been any progress as of yet. So
Right.
is that what I am noting for this meeting?
I think there's been progress, but there has been no follow through. I don't know. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these are all new topics. I haven't met with you yet.
Yeah.
This is my very first time, so it is all brand new to me. Eventually I will get on board with
Mhm.
everything that has or needs to be done. But thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, so the good news is we don't have a ton of complaints, hardly any. But this one is kind of a thorn in the side of of this board and licensed landscape architects throughout the state.
Yeah,
And we just,
I mean, this is almost, I guess this would qualify as a side conversation, but I mean, I think we all know that we're probably not going to get anywhere with this. We were, you know, Vince did a mighty effort just getting that letter out, which was great. You know, I guess we could send the letter out again, and
well,
update it and send it out to, then that might help a little bit. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, we could redate it and have it, you know,
Yeah,
Vince, I mean, it's an
right.
old letter, so we can send it out with a new date and
Yeah,
from, on behalf of a new board.
yeah. And I apologize, I forget who told us this, but at one time the board was told that the only way to really reconcile is to bring a complaint against the offending party, and
Yeah.
that would have to be brought by the person that was aggrieved.
Correct.
Yep.
You're right.
So,
Phil?
yeah, so I
Didn't
think
you
that
do
needs
that,
to be
Phil?
some what?
Didn't you do that, Phil, as a third party? That's how we got to the next step.
Well,
No, we had those people, and was it Bloomfield or one of those, that gentleman that came like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
the attorney?
No,
No, it was,
the gentleman filed a complaint against the town because they wouldn't accept.
Oh, that
this.
was from LADA.
LADA, yeah.
Did he actually file a complaint?
Oh, he had. Maybe he didn't, maybe, I mean,
No, I don't think so. I think
it's
he
a
came to us
catch-22.
looking,
Yeah, he
I
looked
think he
for
came to us
advice.
looking, I think he came
He
to us
did.
looking for advice.
You're
and I
right.
think we
He
told
came
him-
to us. We had a good conversation. We told him the only way to move it forward was he had to file the formal complaint. I'm pretty sure that's how
Okay.
that went.
Okay. So again, I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, maybe we've kind of solved this, not in the way we want to solve it, but I mean, and we can talk to CTASLA too, because of course they keep bringing this up, and I don't know, maybe we're not ready
Maybe.
to say this yet, but I don't know that the board can really do anything.
No, I mean, we can can CTASLA be the complaint? Can they file the complaint?
Right.
They, actually, I think they can, I know there's precedent, and this gets outside of our purview, but I think Phil's on the right page. We're kind of bound by, we really can't do anything, but we
No.
can advise a group such as, and it doesn't have to be limited to CTSLA, that they can file a complaint on
Mhm.
behalf of someone. So I know ACSC has done that in the past in Rhode Island and Connecticut.
Okay,
So
then that may be the right way to go, because we all get questions, right? And we just don't
Right.
really know.
correct.
That can be something that we continue to work on. I just don't really want to take it off the agenda, because we, you know, next thing you know,
Yeah.
4 months goes by and it's just nice. It's a reminder, and it's kind of a uncomfortable reminder, but we should keep it on there, I think. And then we all have some things to do. Not Ann, because she's retired. We all have some things. You're muted, Ann.
You're muted, Ann.
You know what, Mark? May I say something?
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure if you were on the board or not, but I believe a ways back, the board's, I think it might have been Peter Huntsman, Raul's predecessor, that mentioned that the short-term springboard for this issue was exactly what the board just discussed, that it starts with a complaint.
Yeah,
Somebody comes into the department and says, you know what, I want something to be done about this. And that gets the ball rolling, you know, as opposed to a broad brush approach, you know, in terms of trying to address everybody
Mhm.
with one letter. Because that was, as you mentioned, that was done. But as I recall, the advice the board received a while back was just that, you know, if an individual or an entity files a complaint with the department, they're legally obligated to respond and go from there.
Mhm.
You know, so that might reopen up the, you know, the discussion.
then is it something that outside of a board meeting that, you know, when the comments do come up, they're going to continue to come up, we can just reference, make a formal complaint. Doesn't matter who it is,
Yeah.
but just make the formal complaint.
Yeah, I mean, that's was my understanding, Mark.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to keep it on the, as as just an old business, just as a sort of reminder for us all.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Any other question on that one before we move to 4C?
One question, where are you sending these formal complaint letters to?
So it would go through the formal DCP complaint process from, we've had people complain, file a complaint before. I believe, Phil, you actually filed a formal complaint through the system at one point. You're muted.
I don't have a great memory of that, but
Yeah.
I think
Is it?
you're right. And I
'Cause we
think
ended
I
up-
just sent it, I think I sent it to the attorney, Raul.
Raul Rodriguez, right?
I think so.
And
Okay.
it would be the same way that the person filed the complaint for Mattson. It's the same process.
Okay.
And you know what, also, there's a process on our website. I mean, it's the process that the public accesses, you know, there's a form you file. In the past, I've sent on behalf of the board, information directly to Janita, but that kind of circuits the process. The formal process is on the website, how to file a complaint. And
Okay.
actually go through the,
Okay, so thank you for the clarification. So I'm to assume the letter that you mentioned to be redated and resent was originally submitted to DCP.
I'm not 100% sure. I think that letter,
well, you know
yeah,
what? That letter was, if I may, that
Sure.
letter that Vince drafted, Vince McDermott, Shannon, was the former, he was the chairman of our board a couple chairs ago. He drafted a letter to all the municipalities addressing the issue of the acceptance of landscape architect seals for specific types of work as permitted by the law. And the letter was reviewed by the department officials at the time, the commissioner and our legal staff, and they settled on a draft that was approved, and that draft was sent out. And that draft, the final letter was sent out. It was signed by the chair and sent out mass mailing through the department. But it went through a back and forth process between, you know, Vince drafted it, the department looked at it, our legal people made changes, and then it was sent out.
Okay. So will that letter be resent out to the municipalities with a new date?
that is a question for this board. We could.
No, I think that would be a good effort for the board
I agree.
personally.
So question for Bob or Shannon. Could we just reissue that letter, or would it have a little bit more oomph if it was a new letter, but that new letter would have to then get reviewed by all the legal pieces before it went back out? Even if we weren't changing it hypothetically, it would still need to be reviewed. So it might be easier to get that original letter reissued out, but it might carry a little more weight if it was a new letter with, you know, a little more current. But it might take a little more time.
In my opinion, I think Mark is the new chair, you know, the chairman, you should sign the letter. And at the same time, when you do that, look at it, and maybe it can be tweaked, you know, if it takes a little time to add something to it, you know, kind of a fresh version, you know, a 2.0 version. Or maybe it's good the way it's written, but I think at a minimum, maybe if you signed it representing the current board, in my opinion.
I think that's a great idea, and I actually think that it could be beefed up a little bit.
Yeah.
What we often hear, at least informally, is that, hey, that's fine, but local regulations trump state regulations, or hey, DOT regulations trump state regulations. And we were told specifically by Mr. Huntsman, I believe that it's the case. I believe he said that that's not the case, that state law trumps local laws.
That's correct, Phil. Yep.
Okay,
He said statute is the statute, and that
gotcha,
trumps
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I think that's, I don't know if people just throw that out, just be throwing something out, or if they actually believe that.
Okay, then I think, Dom, you good with that approach?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And Ann, yeah, you would give that a thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll put that on my list too, is to just take a shot at taking Vince's letter, keeping the guts of it, referencing that because it already went through review, and just maybe adding a little bit to it with a new date. And if I can get to that over the next, couple weeks, I'll get it out in draft form to you guys and we can all look at it. And then,
Great.
okay, that sounds good.
I'm gonna back up a second. I'm gonna bat out of order here because we were talking about the complaint form and procedures, and I'm on that page right now.
Yeah.
But when the investigation person was on earlier, you can be anonymous and file a complaint, correct? So is that just against licensed
said that.
professionals? Is that licensed professionals? I think this for Shannon or Bob, or is that a complaint of a barrier to practice? Can that be an anonymous complaint? Or does that have to have a justification? If someone wrote into complaints.dcp.gov and said, I have a beef here, and I gotta know who it is. Can it be anonymous?
Got a little feedback. I wasn't.
Check 1, 2, check.
No, I got you. Bob, I would say that if anybody files a complaint, they have to at least look at it. They can't ignore a complaint, whether it's anonymous or it has a name attached to it.
Right. An anonymous complaint, it does limit what the department can do. I know that. The process goes to a certain point, and then I know I've heard Janita advise other boards before that you can only go so far with it, but yes, you can file an anonymous complaint, but maybe you could,
Just checking.
we can get more clarification from Janita on exactly what the limitations are versus, where the author's known, the complainant's known.
If it was the CTASLA route though, I don't think they would have any problem in not.
Well,
being
that's what
anonymous.
I'm thinking, and this is outside of the purview of this board, so we can talk later
Okay.
on with ASLA about that.
Okay,
Because what their path to the barrier, their biggest recommendation at this point would be go read through the regulations of like Coventry or Greenwich or one of these ones that it's already
Yeah.
written in stone, and that can be your precedent to actually file a complaint with this board.
Yeah.
Outside of a project, that's the way you're gonna have to go. So, all right,
Okay.
I digress. I apologize.
so Shannon, I don't think we have to amend anything that we did on 4B,
Nope,
just with that discussion.
sorry.
4C, continuation of discussion concerning live attendance requirement for continuing education. This is one that we've addressed on a meeting by meeting basis, and we've just sort of pushed it and sort of kept that it doesn't have to be live attendance to get CEUs. Does anybody feel differently now? This is how we've approached it. We're just taking it on a meeting by meeting basis.
May I have the floor? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have any problem if the will of the board would be to push it a little more. However, I think we should give some consideration to if we are going to go back to live attendance, that we can give a fair warning to all licensed professionals that we are reverting back. So if we were to make a decision like, we want to go back to live attendance, and I do think that is a means to an end, that I think we should have live attendance. I think there's a benefit to collaboration. There's a benefit to being with people in a room for some sorts of educational experiences. But I want to make sure that we're fair to the licensees, that, they have an opportunity to play that catch up, or they've already registered for something at this point that they're going to go virtual and it's not live. There's a robust, we are fortunate in Connecticut that we always have a robust amount of both virtual and live options in this state.
Mhm.
So I think, that's my only comment. I'm wherever the board wants to go, I'm cool with it, but I just want to make sure that if we do decide, we should have a buffer.
And
Can I make the suggestion in future that if and when we go back to live requirements, that it's a percentage of the total CEUs, and And therefore, you know, I think you can get a vast sort of array of exposure by making it virtual. You know, you can do deep dives on things you might not get in your car and drive to. But I agree with Dom that there is a benefit to being with people. So I think balancing that would be really great going down the road.
Okay. Thanks.
And also limit the carbon footprint, you know, so we're not all driving to every opportunity to get CEUs.
What is it right now? Is it all live or half? What, I mean, I don't remember what it was. It's been so long since I've left
I don't know.
my office.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
You mean how the board settled on what to do with it? Or
No, what it was before COVID.
Was it 100% live or was it
6 hours? 6 hours required live.
Oh,
Of the 24 CEUs, every even numbered biennium, of which 6 shall be earned live.
Phil, you have any?
Sounds so trivial. Maybe we should do.
Phil, you have any just opinion on that?
Just a minute. Yeah, I would be all for leaving it remote for the time being.
Yeah, I think.
And I do agree. I think the goal will be to get it back to live attendance. I don't know. I just don't think everybody's comfortable with that yet.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
That's just
I just want-
anecdotal.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I
like-
certainly am, and I would go, but I don't know. Think maybe we're not there yet.
Okay, so I think for 4C, we're going to keep that. We're going to keep the. We're going to push off live attendance for now and accept all. They can be recorded CEUs, and we will address it at our next meeting. Dom did make the point that when and if we do go back to a pre-COVID situation, that we give sort of a landing, a nice long landing strip to let people know that we are going back. So if we push this off to our next meeting, I think it's safe to say at that meeting, we're not going to say, boom, we're flipping the switch. It would be, at the next by, mid-year or whatever. So just so we know what's happening. But I think for now, for the time being, we will continue to push off the live requirement. Okay. 4D, status of public member board appointments. I have sent some emails out to the contacts that we've had, that Bob has gotten, and Shannon, I think I've put you on them, just sort of trying to push this for a couple reasons. One, I thought we're pretty close to having a public member appointed. I thought we even had the name, but I haven't heard anything else from it. And then I've also requested that we dig through the box somewhere in the governor's office of applicants for license replacements for land, for Ann. I haven't gotten any responses back, Bob or Shannon, from my reach out to the 3 or 4 people. One was at the governor's office, just trying to say, hey, when can we get the public member here? And by the way, we need a replacement. We'd like to have a replacement for Ann.
And I think at this time, I'm going to interject as well. I mean, at this time, and DCP is not going to want to hear this, but if we don't have some sort of action on this by, like, let's say our next meeting, because we've been going on almost a year now, I think we're going to get some politicians involved in this process. I've already spoken to 2 representatives, and I've told them to hold off, but they don't like to hear that there's people that want to be on a board that are being basically denied that board position.
Yeah, for no, and I don't
For
know.
no apparent reason or rationale.
So I can tell you that emails have gone out from me requesting information back on, hello, we're ready. Who are they? How do we move this forward? I have not gotten a response back yet.
All right, so the public member is Steve Wing. I'm sorry, Steve Woods.
Well, you got
That,
that.
that would be awesome.
So Steve's a political guy. He's a former mayor of Newington. He's also a landscape contractor. But he was told that he's been approved and he's on the board. But nothing official has gone out to him or to us, obviously.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
So Shannon, this is also something for you that Bob is aware of, but it looks like we have a public member that's been appointed by the governor's office.
Okay. Yeah.
But we haven't,
Yeah,
I
we
have
haven't
gotten
sworn
no
him in,
receipt.
nothing.
Yeah, he hasn't been
Frankly,
invited, but
To Dom's comment, he's getting very frustrated and
yeah,
he's about ready to say, screw it.
I am unsure of where that goes from the official letter from the
Yeah,
governor's
there's an
office.
easement there,
It
and,
doesn't go to
The
me.
slope changes pretty drastically.
Maybe,
That's all. So we said, let's just do.
Rob has a little bit more information regarding that process of bringing on new members.
In the past, what's happened in the past is it goes from the commissioner's office to, at the time was my director, Richard Hurlbert. And Richard would give me a copy of the letter or email me a copy of the letter, say that this person's been appointed and, so I was, it came from the commissioner to Richard to me. And then it went from me out to the board.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm pretty much the last in line to, because I have to add them to the distribution lists and things like that. So I could inquire with Jason possibly. I'm not sure where to go.
It might also be, if I may, it might also be Aaron too, Aaron Walsh.
Gotcha.
So,
She,
Aaron's
prior
been
to
on my,
Aaron, Alan was there. Alan used to follow up. Alan DeMata used to follow up.
so Aaron is on my email. Aaron has been on my emails
Oh,
requesting information on this, so.
um,
I will follow up. I'm gonna actually put Steve Woods on there, so maybe that will help them try and find it. So Dom, to your point, frustration noted. Phil, frustration noted.
You know what, Mark?
I'm gonna stay positive and optimistic on this one, that I think I think things are moving. It's like at a snail's pace, but it's gonna be hard to ignore the group of emails that have been going out.
Mark, you could, as a suggestion, you could email the commissioner. I'm sure she would be, more than happy to at least, start with her. Michelle would,
Yeah, I think I got to give a little bit of opportunity for the people who's, from what I see, is that I can't even remember who the governor's office contact is, but Aaron, have been on, both of them have been on the emails, requesting.
okay. Is there anything that you wanted me to do on my end?
If you weren't on those emails, Shannon, I will put them on your email, on you, because I'm going to send out another group of emails after this meeting, just following up on a few things again. And
Okay,
you will be on it. By all means, if you have a contact and say, hey,
Jason, the director of operations is generally who I direct my inquiries to. I'm very new, so that
So I
he's
have
kind of
his-
he is my resource for the most part, and then he'll direct me wherever I need to go, but I'm pretty sure he would probably say to contact Aaron.
okay. So I have his contact information too, because he just reached out yesterday about, he's trying to put together a waiver process or an extension sort of on CEU. He's putting something together and he asked for.
Yeah,
review.
hardship waiver request.
Yeah.
That's
So,
all new to me as well. I'm on all those, so.
so I will put him on the email. I'm going to push it a little bit. I'm
Okay.
usually really a very nice person and kind of a pushover, but there's a few things that we need to get taken care of right now because we're going to be in a new year. It would be nice to have some progress made in 2023. So.
And to add to that, we do have to replace Ann, so this is something.
Yeah,
that
it's all part of it.
We really need to move through, and Shannon, just so you understand, we're trying to make an effort to fill our board, but with the landscape architects are easy to fill, the lay people are a little more difficult, and we had somebody And like I said, we want to build on that. So we have a full board. So we have, you know, if there's ever a chance that they're saying, well, they're not doing their job, we've got a lot of people on the board and active and making sure that we're doing the work that we're tasked to do as we're appointed to these positions.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so keep this, if you could, for the minutes moving forward, it's gonna be status of public board member and what is it, professional board member, licensed board member appointments. All right, good discussion on that. Moving on to 5, new business. And I apologize to, is it Mario Ulloa? Trying to pronounce that right. I apologize if I did not pronounce that right. Thank you for being on the call for as long as you have been this morning. But as far as new business 5A, we do have an application from Mr. Ulloa to sit for his exam. So we have a bunch of information that was submitted. All the board members have received transcripts and information. But I think at this point, Mario, if you'd like to give us a little background, and then we'll open up the floor to any questions that the board may have. But I do want to say I appreciate you taking this process of coming to us before you sit for the examination and sort of taking the temperature of the board, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. No, thank you for having me. And thank you, Robert and Shannon. I've been in touch with you guys for a while now.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just here, you know, if you guys have any questions and, you know, however I can help, trying to go the right way here. So I don't know. I'm just here for, you know, whatever else you need or whatever other document I can provide. I can do that.
Appreciate that. So with that, I'll open it up to the board if you guys have any questions. Dom?
Thank you. First of all, welcome, and I appreciate the fact that you're looking to sit for the exam. We've had some issues in the past, and I think this is a great opportunity to actually that you came on board. I, for one, you know, take it seriously, the licensing in the state of Connecticut, and I think you're coming through as an alternative path to licensure, which is great. Very good with all the background information that was sent by Clark on you. And I don't know if I'm even out of line here. You work for Stantec currently?
AECOM.
AECOM. Big ones. That's fine. Okay, great. And you don't have to answer questions. And if I'm out of line, the board is going to tell me I'm out of line with this question. But I'm wondering, you're applying through the state of Connecticut, and it looks like you live in New York and work in New York. Is that true?
Well, it's AECOM. So I live in New York, yes,
Yep.
but the work that we do is actually
All over the country.
all over the country, including Connecticut. And
Okay.
I'm actually working in a project in there. That's why.
All right.
I'm taking that back.
Now, and if I'm reaching, I apologize. Obviously, is it when you looked to apply for licensure and sit for the exam? You came to Connecticut, which is great because we get a little bit of an opportunity for a secondary for someone to be licensed in the state. I'm digging a little deeper. Were there barriers in other states depending on the way or your background information? You obviously have the time. We always have a 3-legged stool. Everyone takes the exam. Everyone has to put the time in, and obviously you have the education. Did you feel it was a benefit that Connecticut offers these alternative paths to licensure? And is that why you came to our state?
I think there's a few other states that actually offer the same type of path. To be honest, it's for me, my life. Hopefully I end up in Connecticut at some point. So that's why I'm doing the path for you guys. But that was like the main reason. It's not that I picked, you guys over another state for other reason than that.
Mark Aragoni, the board, knew I was going to take this opportunity because we get a lot of people from outside of the state. And we're just curious. We're just trying to understand if we're doing something that benefits or if we're doing something that deters. And we appreciate you. I don't have any other questions. I think it's great. I think he checks all the boxes in terms of the alternative path to licensure for the state of Connecticut.
Great. Anne?
Just a quick question. Thank you very much, Mario, for being so thorough. Did you try licensures in New York State? And
I
if not,
haven't done
why
it.
not?
Again, it was like a personal decision rather than, trying to do it in New York. I think it's just for me, just because at some point in my life, I hopefully I can have in Connecticut. So that's why I'm going through this process with you guys. But I feel like the questions are more about like the process. And I did went through like, all the states at some point. And I think there is like a difference between like how many years of experience you need or something like that. But I can't recall, so.
Well, you clearly have a very good background and experience, and we would love to have you in Connecticut. We're looking for
Thank you.
talent.
Right. Mhm.
Phil, any comment or question for Mario?
No, I agree with the comments presented, and I think he's good to go.
Okay. With that being said, again, can't thank you enough for following the process the way that it's actually written and coming to us and having this wonderful conversation. And at this point, I have no issue with moving you forward to take the exam and wish you good luck. Bob or Shannon, do we have to formally, because this is how often people actually come to us before they sit for the exam. Do we have to actually formally vote on that?
Yes.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion? And how do you pronounce your last name, Mario?
Yeah, you were doing it right. Yeah.
Oh, good,
Okay, thank you.
good. To actually sit for the landscape examination. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Mario, you'll, if I pronounced it wrong, I apologize.
Roll your L's.
Yeah, you'll satisfies the requirements that's set forth in the state and should be able to sit for the exam.
Second.
And second, all in favor? Aye.
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 Good luck, Mario.
Good
Okay,
luck.
great.
Nice
Mario.
meeting
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you
Take
for having me, guys. Bye.
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 Mark, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Yep.
Who at CARB would I notify specifically? I mean, I have a couple different contacts, but, or Dom, anybody, who would I formally notify that?
Trying to think, it could be Andrea Elkin. It could be, I don't know who, because they've switched around on who's the
Yeah, they
actual
move around.
membership people. Andrea is always a good start.
Andrea,
Elkin, Elkin.
okay.
She'll point us in the right direction. And Mario, do you have a contact?
I've been talking with someone, I can't recall her name too, but I can get in touch with her. And what's the next process? Will you guys get in touch with them and then they'll send me some type of email saying, okay, you can go ahead and start taking them?
Yep.
Okay.
Right, they get the notification from the department that you've been approved. And then from that point forward, it's between you and Clarb.
Okay.
Until you've passed the exam, and then you come back with a completed council record and make application for license.
Okay.
Okay, thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.
I'm
Bye.
gonna jump out now. Thank you.
All right, 5B, application of Miss Sydney Trottier to sit for the landscape architecture registration examination. Again, alternate education path. Everybody's in receipt of her transcript and information.
That came in late this morning. I apologize.
Oh, hold on, that's the one I got.
It
late.
came in late. I did go through it.
I
one
just
of
got
them
it.
is-
I wanted to get it out. If it's not enough time, I try to, we usually try to send it out earlier, but
Yeah, and I believe this is the one that, was this the one where the transcript was in Spanish? One of them?
No,
No, that was Mario.
that was.
that was
was
Mario.
Because I went through all of Mario's and then I realized, oh, here's the,
And oddly enough, he was a Columbia one, but the thing is that's the way it's supposed to work. It was
Yes,
Columbia
I know.
architecture, I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, in fact,
So this was Boston Architectural College.
this was Barca. Yeah,
BAC, yep.
And so that's a non-accredited
Mhm.
program in landscape architecture.
yes.
Oh, it's an accredited, oh, right,
In landscape architecture, it's not accredited.
correct. No, I'm sorry, I missed,
Yeah,
it's an accredited architecture
correct.
program, yep.
Uh, So she's had the experience.
Yep.
She's had enough experience,
Yeah, undergrad was Roger Williams, grad was
BAC.
BAC. And this is the Stantec one.
Yeah, not seeing a ton of landscape architecture classes at BAC.
No, I mean, nor were there at Columbia as with that degree. And I think that's kind of the alternate path is relies more on experience.
Right. So what's our?
Totally agree with you.
So where do we land on this?
I guess my question would be, what are the differences besides the additional 2 years of experience with Mario versus Sydney?
I thought he had a whole lot of landscape experience as an undergrad. I have to look at his,
If you can read Spanish.
well, let's take a look at his documentos.
There you go.
Yeah, I see. There's stuff. Got it.
Well, furthermore, his undergrad and his grad were all through architecture and through site stuff. And I mean, whereas Sydney, what was her undergrad in?
Roger Williams.
Yeah, architecture design.
Yeah. I mean, this is another good prime, and again, they're coming to us for alternative path.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely heavy architectural, but with the alternate path.
Yep.
And the experience. And so the experience was land work for a year and a half. And then Stantec for another 2.5. Or there, so
3 years and 9 months total.
3 years, 9 months.
As of what date? As of July, so, add
Over 4 years, yeah.
add 4 more months, so that's practically 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, this, I mean, and this is gonna sound, me, I'm the critic. I think this is a good alternate path. I mean, she went as an architect, she switched in terms of working with landscape architects for almost 4 years, let's be honest.
Yep.
3, 4, right? And she's looking and she's asking to sit for the exam. I think this is why we had this.
Yeah.
I'm actually in shock right now that we got 2 now. I'm almost crying here. Look at it, it's ridiculous. And she doesn't have a lot of the landscape portion, but we also know that our profession is diverse enough. She's got a lot of theory in here, and she's got a lot of construction stuff in here, and engineering systems, and I'd love everyone to have some horticultural background, but that sometimes that doesn't happen until you're out in the field doing it. So,
And
I don't have a problem with this individual, to be honest with you. The only question, as you know, is it's a Massachusetts thing.
Yeah. And they have to pass the exam. I mean, that's their third leg.
Yep.
Had a very good GPA, which suggests she's a quick learner.
Yeah, graduate with honors.
Yeah.
Okay, so just moving it on, do we think that we are in a position to make a motion.
Yes. I
Somebody
move
like-
that we approve Sydney Trottier's
For exam.
application sit for the exam.
Great.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, 5C, applications for written exam. There are 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mark,
Three
if
of
I
which
may?
have been, three of them have been approved, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I was just gonna say that, and thank you. I was,
Forgot.
I think I sent the email out that,
You did.
Phil Schweiger, Marie, Sarah Swanson, and Zishuan Tai, they were approved.
Right. They were approved by
But
the
they're on
department.
They're on the board's agenda for formal ratification. Ms. Pusada, the first one, she has not. That's the first, the first time before the board.
Now, if you remember, Emily Busada came through with an
Yep.
engineering background through an alternate path.
Correct. And
She actually came and talked to us and asked permission to take the exam or approval. She was great, and she came back and look at that, she passed her exam. So I have no issue with this one
I don't either.
because we already reviewed all of her stuff besides the exam. So this is, in my eyes, really just a congratulations for passing the exam.
Agreed.
Now, what about these other three? Were you already approved them or?
So what happened is because we did not have a quorum, they
For the-
did make
they were
their,
from
they
last
did
time.
make their application. The director, Bob, I believe,
Right.
made the decision just to push it through.
Well, they conversed with me. I
Yep.
reviewed the application as I
Yep.
always do,
Mhm.
making it clear I am not the board, but they did
Right.
not, the department thought it would be in the best interest, unless there was some egregious, some issue that really, I didn't see it. So I said to to our legal department, I believe that these are all in order, that the boxes are all checked.
Mhm.
And they instructed us to not hold them up longer, to process the application, process the
Mhm.
license.
So really, I think we only have to make a motion, seeing that Schweiger, Swanson, and Ty have already received previous approval. We only have to make a motion to approve Busada for licensure.
Correct.
Would anybody like to make the motion?
Unless I have to actually say that, I'll make the motion, but I don't want to say what you just said.
So Dom is making the motion to approve Sydney Trottier. I'm sorry.
I'm having trouble.
Emily
with my
Busada
throat.
for licensure. Second,
Second,
we'll give Phil that second.
there you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think maybe
Who-
it should be noted, I would suggest it might be noted in the minutes that the previous action on the other applications that went before the board in May.
No, we're gonna leave that all on you. So if something
No, but I mean,
happens,
just, okay. I mean,
I'm just, yeah,
maybe
we,
the minutes could just say that exactly what we talked about, I think, just so that it's on record that it was.
yeah, I tried to say that before we made that
jumped
motion,
to the legal
but
department.
Okay, so for
Schweiger,
Schweiger,
Swanson, and-
Swanson, and Ty.
yep.
The
The board acknowledges previous approval by
The department.
the
I would say.
department
Okay,
for approval of licensure. Yep, I think that makes sense that it's in the record.
sure. And who was the first motion for Basada? I missed that.
Dominic
Okay,
and Phil Barlow second.
that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 5D, we do not have to make any actions on those, but we do have some more licensed LAs in Connecticut.
Mhm.
And then 5E, corporate license. These have been approved.
Correct.
BSC and Wolf Tree. That's down near you, Dom.
Mhm.
Item 6, is any correspondence? The only correspondence that I mentioned is I have had some email correspondence back and forth with representatives of the governor's office, consumer protection, just as far as trying to shake out our public member, our replacement for Ann, and some acknowledgement of Ann's service, which is, I think, a good segue if there is no other correspondence. Hearing none. Any comments? Item 7, comments or concerns of any person present today? Dominic?
You knew I would say something. We didn't meet last month, and it's going back a few months, and it looks like it's starting to actually change what we're getting from Clark in terms of people asking to sit for the alternate licensure. However, back in the spring, I had requested that we review our regulation versus the law and solidify the fact that I believe the regulation is not correct the way it's written and interpreted based on the law with our three-pronged approach. And I'm still waiting for some sort of review or comment from DCP on that. I'd asked a few times and we still haven't had anybody reinvestigate the law versus the regulation. I think Clark is on board, but I still think, and there was a little bit of it alluded to by our candidate that came forward. He kind of alluded at the end of, well, I think there might be, you guys have 2 years, whereas Massachusetts or New York have longer durations, and that's fine. That's fine, but I don't care if we're a yellow, a green, or a red in the eyes of Clark. I care that the regulation actually fits the law, and the law is pretty, I think, is pretty straightforward. That says, regardless of your path to licensure, you wait 2 years before you start taking the exam. Good, bad, or indifferent. We can argue on whether or not that's right or wrong. However, that's the law, and that's what we're tasked with approving or disapproving.
The statute does state, it states clearly that the experience is earned before you take the exam.
And statute overrides regulation, correct?
Correct. This was, just as an aside, this was, I raised this, I brought this to the attention of Cynthia Fernandez. So maybe that, we can,
I just want to, it looks like, the fact of the matter is we have a lot of people that come through and they're taking the test within 3 or 4 months of graduating, and that's not the intent of the law the way it sits right now, or the statute as you called it. Yeah. You don't start taking the test the day you graduate from college, as much as we want them to be able to.
I can tell you, that there is it's been discussed at the Clark level. I witnessed it, been involved in conversations, that there is a group that is saying, why can't you, sort of like the EIT on the engineer side, where
Twofold.
now, most of people take it right before they leave school, hypothetically now is what they're trying to push people to do. So why couldn't the LA candidate take the exam, right when they graduate, or even, your last semester of school? Or is there an LIT like there is an EIT that is sort of that preliminary, where it would get something underneath their belt and give them something other than a landscape designer documentation? These are all just discussions that are ongoing. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear, as Bob said, our statute really says what happened today should happen every time.
And Len, rightfully so, one of the ones that was approved through basically the hand wave of somebody above our pay grade in DCP from last month.
Yeah.
The gentleman from Harvard, he started taking the, I'm not going to be the investigator, but he started taking the exam within 3 months of graduating. And then for some reason, he's not trying to get licensed in Massachusetts. He came right to Connecticut, which is because they probably would have told him, you had to wait. They have a requirement. Anybody has to come and make sure that they're qualified to sit based on their time period and their education before they take the exam. And I'm just trying to be, I'm more worried about reciprocity and the strength of the licensure versus architecture and engineering. And not making sure that we're watering down rather than having a barrier to certain individuals. And I like that. I like the, the theory, the history, the design portions can be taken in school right after school. But, I went back and talked to some people, obviously during like the Vince era in the last 6 months. And, the way the law was crafted is that out of work experience, the actual practicing for 2 years is part of that, part and parcel to actually taking that exam and making sure that they're fulfilling the requirements of the 3 different elements.
Yeah, I think.
And it's our law, it is what it is. Unless we want to open that box, we can talk to them, that's not us, but.
Yeah, the law is the law. I have made the comments to Clarb saying, this is our law, so we're actually not a green state.
Yeah.
I've made that comment. Maybe that's why we've had a couple more people come through. Maybe there was a sort of a slap on the hand, or, ooh, geez, yeah, Connecticut actually isn't green. You can take it whenever you want. But there's the legal side. I think Bob stated the statute is what the statute is. That's not gray. That's black and white. Then you get into the opinion side. You have one opinion, right? That.
Well, the statute and the regulation is what I want to look at, because the regulation is what a lot of people look at, is the way it was broken down, and it didn't match. And if someone just looks at the regulation that DCP put out there, not the statute, it's a little fuzzier when you have those 2 pieces of paper looking at it. They're not the same.
Phil, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
So Bob or Shannon, is there a way to get something in the works to request a review of the regulation and the statute per Dom's question to see if there is any contradictory statement? Can we request that DCP legal review them?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's me or Shannon at this point, but some communication to Cynthia, just basically recapping the board is looking for a decision, not a decision, but their interpretation is this. We need, we want to know what the
we feel there may be a contradiction between what the regulation says versus what the statute says.
Right, and the board is looking for direction on what's to be followed. Their understanding that the statute trumps every, not words to that effect, that the statute takes precedent, although the regulation seems to contradict it.
Shannon, is that something that you can get into the meeting minutes and maybe put in motion, or is that something that we have to, Bob, I don't know, if that's something you can do. I would say I would do it, but then again, I don't know if I'm the right one to do it, to request it.
Mark, I'd be glad to, or not to. I would be glad to do it, but it might, again, not to put it on you, but it might mean more coming from the board chair.
I got a lot of things. I got a lot of things to do after this meeting. What the heck is going on?
I could draft it up, or I'm not trying to take over but I don't know, whatever the board thinks,
Yeah, I would imagine it would have to be put in writing, an email or what have you, to be forwarded over.
You think Cynthia though, Bob?
Yeah, I think she is the assigned attorney. The last I checked from the department, Cynthia Fernandez. But I think even as a matter of record, the board is requesting an interpretation on the following. It's been coming. It's been discussed back and forth, and we're looking for the department to for direction on how we proceed.
Hey, Dominic,
with an apparent conflict.
Hey, Dom. Because I know you
want me to write.
You have all these statutes and regulation numbers in your head, and when you go to sleep at night,
I'll write you something and send it.
You want to draft something up, and then we'll look at it.
No.
Okay.
You got enough on your plate.
Okay.
I'll do that. I gotta find them all too, because I've got like 7,000 emails in my inbox, and I know they're all in there somewhere. So.
Okay, but Shannon and Bob, we will put you on this request that we send out to Cynthia. So at least you're aware of it.
I take seriously that we're approving licensed professionals. We got the first step taken care of in terms of alternate licensure and having, making sure they come to us. So if there's questions, we can ask them and go through that. The next one is making sure that we're following our statute, and that's kind of why I don't like to put my thumbprint on something if we're not completely sure.
Okay.
You know what, Dom, and the board, if I may, I think you mentioned this earlier, with the alternate path, that's clearly states 4 years. There isn't, and I don't believe there's a conflict there. If someone like the two that came before the board today, you know, Mr. Uolo, he did mention something about, well, another state was 2 years, but, or New York State, whatever, but Connecticut, as far as the alternate path goes, the statute states 4 years. And there isn't anything else in the regulation to contradict that I found.
Mhm.
So, but with the traditional path to licensure, yes. In terms of when they take the exam, you know?
Yeah. And I'm not happy with it either. But it is our law, and it's a thing for me. I mean, I'd like them to, like you said, if Clark can come up with a two-safe system, and we have to open up the law to make that work, I'm all for that, you know?
Yep.
There's opinions there too. I mean, I think I'm more liberal than you guys probably imagine. I thought when we opened the law last time, we should have left in that if you do 8 years, if you graduate high school and do 8 years under a licensed landscape architect, I don't care if you go to college. You know what I'm saying? We got rid of it, and I'm like, why did we do that?
Yeah.
So I think there's
And ours was
options in
10,
law.
I think.
It doesn't even matter. It was just, you know, if some kid comes out and he's got a, you know, a zeal for the design portion and he works under someone, you know, there's got to be a path that way too. You know, so and by doing what we did, the guy could come in, he could talk to us, hey, listen, I graduated from Vinyl Tech in 1996, and I've been working for Ann Penman for 12 years, and I want to sit for the exam. Okay, go for it. We have that option when they come talk to us, which is great, you know.
But again, like with the alternate path, though, I mean, it's pretty concise now in the sense that the board has to approve the curriculum as an alternate to length to an accredited degree, and the work experience has to be there. I mean, before you enter the gate.
Yep.
I
I just want to make sure, and no disrespect to Clark, but I don't want, I get really nervous when I see, you know, we're approving a real path, someone who went to an accredited institution, but they're coming in with 2 years, 2 months, and they've already passed all the sections of the exam, which is not the way the statute's written. That's what it comes down to. If we're going by the statute, we're approving people, and we're actually breaking the law by approving them, because we're approving someone who didn't go by the rules. So that's my interpretation. That's why I wanted that question answered. Does that make sense? The way it sits right now, if you read the statute, it says you, 1, graduated from a accredited institution, 2, have worked underneath the landscape art, and then you take the test. That's the way I'm interpreting it. That's why I want an interpretation from someone with a legal opinion who has more gray matter than I do.
That's why you're going to write that
Yep.
nice little letter, and we'll put it out there. We'll have them who are going to.
Because then we have, well, and I'm covering, it's covering my own backside too, because then
Yeah.
it says, okay, here's a letter that was told us, this is the way it was interpreted.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair. Okay, that concludes, but before we call this meeting done, again, thank you to Ann. Ann, I think that we will probably be getting back together, hopefully, quickly, maybe in a Zoom or maybe not, but again, I apologize. I wanted to have something for today, but it's just out of my hands.
Well, could I just say it's been a real pleasure to serve with you all, and I've learned a lot, and I have a lot of admiration for your all's commitment. And I just met you, but Bob, you've been stalwart here, and Mark and Phil and Dom, it's been great to serve with you. I'm sorry we were all split up during COVID. It was collegial and really great to get together up at the Capitol. But yeah, thank you so much.
And thank
See
you.
you around
you.
more than
And
likely.
definitely thank you.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure to know you and work with you, really.
thanks. Thanks all.
You're welcome.
Okay, at 10:54, we can close this meeting.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
bye-bye.
Shannon, nice to meet you.
Thank you,
Nice
Shannon.
meeting you.
Nice meeting you